dive right into it. Current session is New York. Current time is 15:15. London session is the previous session. London's delta sits over here. If we bring our attention to the first high and the first low, at which sits at 8 o'clock. London's first low sits at 7:45 and 8 o'clock, right over here. Do feel free to zoom in, get the mouse and zoom in. The low is here, 1, 2, 7:45, 8 o'clock. You don't have, I'm gonna be genuinely honest with all of you. You don't need to just keep it mechanical, okay? Previously, I've mentioned that the moment inventory is open, the moment the first low is printed, or the first high, you want to observe the breaches above and below. We need two breaches above in order to go lower, and we need two breaches below in order to go higher. Once we have that sequence played out, we can then focus on the Asia and London inverse or Asia and London continuation. In order for any of that to happen, we need the delta candle. In order to map out the delta candle, we need the sequence. We need the first low, 7:45, 8 o'clock. Yeah. It's easier said than done because you might be wondering, wait, hold up. If that's the case, then why not just map out the low, the high here, and the breaches? It's easier said than done. But when you really start to look at, okay, I've been doing this for a very long time, over and over again. Yeah. So I want to be genuinely honest with you. It's not gonna be the fact that whatever happens inside the current session is going to be the driving factor for the next session. That's not how it works. You have to look at Monday. Yeah, I said that we've got breach 2 pending below 9:15. 9:15 is breach 1. We need breach 2 below 9:15. So that breach 2 was printed at 5:30. Okay, 5:30 last night. That completes Monday's London inventory. Cool. Prior to that happening at 5:30, look what happened. A push to the upside and then a push back below. Yeah, so it's easier to say, yeah, there's a second breach pending below this candle, but then in order for price to get there, a lot can happen. So we had a 700 pip push from here to here, and then a 700 pip push back below. That's 1,400 pips before the breach 2 was printed. So a lot can happen. So it's easier said than done. So I genuinely want all of you to understand this. I may make it seem like it's easy, yeah, but there's a lot that goes behind the scenes, and it all comes down to tracking. Tracking is very easy. You just have to memorize, write it down, make a note, whatever's easier for you in terms of tracking the breaches, tracking the first low. Has the first low been printed? Yes. Where is the first high? Here. 9:15, 9:30. Yeah. Where are the downside breaches? So London did not print any breaches below the first high. You see? And breaches above the first high. So below the first high, no breaches printed. NY chases it at the open. Breach 1, 1400. Breach 2, 1415. Are you seeing this? And then, if you line the crosshair up to the high area, again, no upside breaches pending. So, because there are no upside breaches pending, how do we know if that is going to be the priority? Look at what NY has done at the open here. 1345 and 1400. It's printed its first high, which tells us that it's going to be easier for us to track once price starts to find its feet into the first high. So we don't have to sit there and start predicting if it's gonna happen. We don't what I'm trying to say is we don't have to sit there and start picking a random session or a random candle in order to understand the delivery above London's first high. We already have the clue. The clue is here, NY's first high. And we do know that in order to go lower, we need upside breaches above the first high. So let's monitor the first high. 1, 2, breach 1 to the downside, 14.15. This becomes a micro breach 2 because it's tapped the first high second candle. This becomes the excess candle, 14.15. So there's money over here. Yeah, there's money over here. Taking into consideration that once we get a push here, longs are valid into first high, NY's first high. Longs are valid. Yeah. If NY rips through the excess candle, then you have to also understand that this is breach 1, 14.15. We also need a full body closure below breach 1, which will give us breach 2. And then the excess candle. So macro. This is all micro happening right now. Yeah. But macro is also a potential. I'm just showing you that if you keep stops reasonable and it needs to make sense. It needs to make sense. Yeah. So longs from here, yes, to chase the first high's upside breaches, and also London's first high, 2 breaches above. So if we just line this up to the first high, that's a 330 pip scope. You're gonna wait for the 50% of the entire region, somewhere around here, or the lower area or the higher area. Stops 100 pips. Yeah, I would say observe this area and then get involved. Don't just put a template here and think it's gonna come through. That's not how it works. You want to observe this area, observe the candles that are tapping into the excess. Okay, and if we see a penetration through breach 1, then let that penetration happen. Wait for it to close and breach 2. Wait for the excess. Literally wait for the excess and then get involved. Yeah, so we have the first high here. We also need the first low. First low hasn't been printed yet. So this is how I approach the sessions, because right now, what's happening is sessions are chasing the breaches. Okay, yeah, it's chasing the breaches, and once all the breaches are complete, you will then see inverses and continuations as time goes by. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So I'm showing you how to literally save a lot of money in the markets by not chasing the move. Wait for it, yeah? And we're not waiting indefinitely. That would be stupid. We're not even going to be waiting for a day or 2 or 3. We're just waiting for the sequence to play out. And the sequence will take probably, a few hours. And then we'll get involved. So, yeah, let's keep it sweet and simple and relatively simple. I've already covered yesterday's London and New York and Asia overlap push and the inverse back below. So I've already covered all of that, and yeah, I'm just keeping it really simple. Monday. Asia's first low, breach 1, one more breach pending. I can remove this. I can remove this. I can even remove this, and I can even remove this. So today there was a false raid. The London and New York inverse, that was a false raid, simply because downside breaches were pending. Now, cool, that is that. Let's have a look over here. Breach NY. I'm just trying to recall where NY's first high is. NY's first high is here. Anyways, I'll catch up with you guys later on.